Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. Last month, we bounced from genre to genre. And you know what? I had a good time. But today, we're going back to an old friend, Grime. And not just because Grime 2 was recently announced, though I am very excited about that. No, it's actually because the folks over at Cloverbite sent me a DM on Twitter. A DM with a save file attached. And when I asked Cloverbite about it, they simply responded that this was their way of thanking me for the videos I've made about their game. That doesn't bode well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my final challenge run of Grime. Can you beat Grime with only a broken sword and no armor? So here's the thing. The devs made a particular save file just for me in hopes that it would give me an actual challenge. They also did something else.
Oh no. That's so fucking cursed. Well, I can't be mad about that.
So yeah, I'm officially in Grime, at least for this particular run. Form makers give me strength. Not only is our head a bit more handsome than usual, but they also gave me the build that they wanted me to use throughout the entire game. A broken Ur sword, and 3 special armor pieces. The broken sword is quite literally the worst weapon in the game. It attacks relatively fast, but only does about 5 damage, and its special attack is just a slightly longer swing. Not exactly game breaking. As for the armor set they've given me, it's super special, because it doesn't do anything. Do you know all those extremely useful armor bonuses you get? Things like extra health, stamina, damage, that kind of thing? Yeah, no, we don't get any of those anymore. Which means this run is going to rely on good old-fashioned stat scaling and special abilities. Except there's one problem. The broken Ur sword doesn't have any scaling. At all. So that's fun. Now, we can still use our parry ability, so we've at least got that going for us, and we can still find and use skills that you get from collecting prey. But outside of that, this extremely useless sword is all we've got. Now Lemon, I hear you ask, with all that being the case, isn't this just going to turn into your parry-only run again? Well, not quite. See, the parry-only run was rather pacifist in nature. If a boss wasn't aggroed to me, I didn't fight it, which meant that we missed a good 5 or 6 bosses in that run. On top of that, I didn't get the true ending, opting to skip the last boss rather than fight him. And on top of that, the last few DLCs have added a New Game Plus mode, which changes all of the bosses up and even adds a completely new one. So, for those of you trying to keep score, here's the final tally. Because I now have a quote-unquote weapon, I can now trigger every boss, which means we're gonna fight everyone. And because there's a hidden boss at the end of New Game Plus, we're gonna have to fight everyone again and that final boss, all while wearing armor that actively keeps me from getting bonuses. Should be a good time. At least someone has good taste in this drab little cavern. Well, no time to dawdle. We've got 2 game cycles to complete. I run around the starting area, absorbing every enemy I can find, struggle to break down a wall with my sword, can't wait for that to be a thing throughout the entire run, absorb all the mini-bosses in the area to get some hunt points, which I'll be using to give myself some very important skills later, collect some upgrade materials, which I may or may not be able to use, and dump all of my points into resonance, because parrying is pretty much the only effective attack we have at the moment. I also take one of our skill points and put it into the Ancient Limb skill, which makes it so that anytime I repel an attack with a parry, it does 40% of my parry damage. So now enemies that normally can't be absorbed will still take damage when I parry them. Not much, mind you, but still more than my broken sword will ever do. But with the first area completely cleared out, I make my way down to the boss, the Amalgam. Nothing to see here. I occasionally attack its body with my sword, mostly out of spite, then use my parry and absorb abilities to steal its hands and deal much more significant damage. Dodge the few attacks it has, and that's pretty much all there is to it. An easy first fight. You love to see it. I exit the cave and make my way out into the desert, swearing vengeance against the cruel gods who made me this way, then make my way into the deeps of the desert floor, fighting enemies that are technically above my weight class. But this is the Backlogs. Fighting above our weight class is what we do. I acquire a few more hunt points, start collecting the pieces of an Estus flask, continue gathering even more hunt points, and shove those points into the Eyebrute skill, which makes it so that any projectile I reflect back with a parry does more damage. Now, normally, I wouldn't be so thorough with my clearing of the map. After all, I already have my weapon of choice, and it's not like I can use any of the armor I find. Unfortunately for me though, because of those facts, it is absolutely vital that we pick up every single hunt point we can. Because unlike a normal run, we're gonna need as many skills maxed out as possible, and I've got my eye on quite a few. Huh, I guess they remember me from the last run. I invest a point into the Skewer skill, which makes it so that dodging an attack at the last second will result in the enemy taking some damage, then begin fighting my way across the map, killing any and all enemies on my way through the level. mostly because I need points to push my levels as high as they'll go, but also because I can't remember which enemies give which skills once you've absorbed enough of them. And besides, you never know if you'll need some obscure skill that sounds bad, but actually has amazing synergy with another. But after exploring the entire map and getting stuck on so many walls, I absorb one of the harmless rock giant's friends and start the boss fight. I don't know what you're so mad about, you've still got one friend left. Well, nothing crazy to see here. Just jump over the shockwaves, smack his head whenever you can, and counter his attacks to do some massive damage. Easy, boss. Let's try something harder. How about the Whispering Mothers? Surely they have the challenge I seek. Well, unfortunately, no. It would appear I've gone the route of Salt and Sanctuary with this game, and have gotten a bit too good at it. Absorbing their attacks, and doing damage while dodging the ones that I can't, just comes as second nature. Which means that the first mother goes down in less than a minute, and the second mother, though much more aggressive, isn't long for this world either. Right, what's next? I dump all of my points into Resonance, because we haven't hit the soft cap yet, and I really don't need stamina or health for the early game. Take a creepy, yet relaxing elevator ride across the chasm, then get repeatedly insulted by Shidra. Just you wait, buddy. Just you wait. Oh hey, you can actually upgrade the Broken Year Sword. Wow, was not expecting that. And you can upgrade it from 5 damage to, 5 damage. Well, it's not like we're using these materials for anything else. Sure, why not? Oh, 6 damage at +2, huh? Now we're talking. So yeah, weapon upgrades are a thing, but not really. I'll keep doing it out of spite, and because I'm probably going to be the only person in the world who ever upgrades this stupid weapon, but who knows? Maybe it has some super secret transformation once you upgrade it all the way. A man could dream. More hunt points gathered, more prey hunts complete, none of which offer me useful skills for this particular build, and before you know it, we're at Flowerheart. Not a whole lot to see here either. Just throw back any and all projectiles it sends your way, and counter as many attacks as you can, which will get you very quickly into Phase 2, where you have to fight 2 of them at the same time. I know it's a bit hectic, but I actually kind of prefer it when there are 2 of them on the screen. It keeps the downtime to a minimum, and makes it so that you're constantly doing damage, which feels good in a run like this, since doing damage with my weapon is, not a thing. And there you have it. One of the 3 Dream Guardians defeated, and the ability to sprint unlocked. It's a good day. But why stop there? The Giant of Eyes is nearby, and it's not like he's a mid-game boss or anything. So yeah, the Giant of Eyes. He's definitely supposed to be a boss you fight later, but I'm feeling confident today. I mean, I shouldn't, but I do. Now, I will admit, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I got it in my head that beating this boss, right now, was important. And to my credit, I was able to get him into Phase 2 after about 10 minutes of attempts. So that's not bad. Granted, I was immediately annihilated after reaching Phase 2, but hey, progress is progress. Fun fact, these orange projectiles that I've always just tried to dodge, you can use the pull ability to throw them back. I had no idea. This boss fight is wild. There's so much going on, and it's an incredibly fun fight. Very cool addition to the game. But after another 30 minutes of attempts, we've done it. The Giant of Eyes is dead, even if he's taking his sweet time doing it, and that's another big boss off my list. Oh, and we can warp between surrogates now. So that's huge. Totally worth the 30 minutes I spent grinding it out. Into the Feaster's Lair. Oh hey, a free pearl. Well, free now anyway. We have 2 bosses to kill here. The first being the Jaw Crab. Easy boss for our build. Just absorb his claws whenever you can, and use dodge attacks to damage him whenever you can't. Simple enough. Thanks for the breath increase, my guy. The same rules apply to the other boss of the area, the Vulture. Use dodge damage to injure it whenever possible, knock it off balance when the timing isn't right, and throw any falling boulders you can grab. Once you've done that long enough, it's time for Phase 2, where you not only fight the Vulture, but the worms it had inside it. That wasn't a very fun sentence to say. But once those are dead, that's all she wrote. Just give the Vulture one last slap, and you're done, finishing the area and unlocking the ability to dodge in midair. I upgrade my sword to +3, which does absolutely nothing, then begin my journey to the Carven Palace. And after navigating through all the traps and puzzles and absorbing every enemy I come across, I've officially finished pumping points into Resonance and can start pushing my stamina bar to respectable levels. I've also started to really focus in on which abilities I'll be sticking with for this playthrough. Extra damage when reflecting projectiles, dodge damage, increasing the parry window by a not insignificant amount, and doing extra damage with my parries. All in the hopes that my damage will be strong enough to push through the last few bosses standing between me and New Game Plus. And while the damage isn't exactly as strong as I would like, it's certainly not the worst thing I've ever seen. That would be my sword damage. Shapely Fidus enters Phase 2, doing their best to knock me back into the depths, but between giving me ammunition with every ranged attack they make, and their increased aggression actually giving me even more moments to counterattack than before, they aren't long for this world. Which brings us to Phase 3, where they do the whole Wall Master thing and start warping all over the place. Thanks, I hate it. It got a bit closer than I would have liked, and I may have panicked a bit in the final seconds, but in the end, Sheeply goes down, giving my platforming abilities another boost with self-pull, which means we now have almost every movement ability available, minus 1 or 2 that affect the late game, which means it's time we cleaned up shop. I make my way around the maps I haven't been to yet, clearing any hunt points I missed, and obliterating the few remaining bosses left hiding in the shadows. Because although they appear intimidating, the fact of the matter is that we've done this all before, and with my skills as strong as they've become, there's not much the bosses in this first new game cycle can do. I destroy them all in turn, collecting their rewards with little to no fanfare, outside of the steadily increasing stat numbers on my character page. Is this it? Is this the worst you can conjure, Cloverbite? Well, actually, no, it's not. Despite these last few bosses having little to no effect on the run, outside of giving me even more methods of healing, there are at least 1 or 2 great Leviathans remaining, one being the Surrogate Vulture. The first phase is essentially just the Vulture fight again, with a few new moves, but the second phase introduces wildly different attack patterns, making this boss almost more of a puzzle than anything else. Despite the huge number of moves it has though, it doesn't take too long before I have it on the ropes, and with one final effort, the Surrogate Vulture is destroyed, which in turn gives me the ability to hover. Very useful indeed. I deal with Jan's betrayal, which hurts me more than it hurts him, probably, and make my way up to Cenotaph City, where I engage in the final performance. And while I can't physically absorb the boss, I can certainly manipulate the performance to my advantage. And with one final blow, it's time. Time to absorb this city and every denizen inside it. Only one last boss to go. In this game cycle, anyhow. Sheedra tries to capture and pacify me, which doesn't work, but you can't blame the poor guy for trying. He easily has the most move variation of all the bosses, from firebombs, to thrown daggers, to summoning minions to give himself time to heal. But in the end, even a massive pool of moves to choose from isn't enough, and he resorts to breaking the arena and making a desperate escape. But one cannot escape a black hole, even if that black hole is currently shaped like the Elite Knight helmet. And after a failed last-ditch effort to smash me to bits, it's over. The last boss of the game is defeated, and Grime has been beaten with a broken sword and 0 armor enhancements. However, this isn't the end. It would appear that there's something else out there. Something like me. Something new. But it's not here. Not in this reality. And if it won't come to us, then we'll have to go to it. And so, with every single hunt point collected and every single boss defeated, it's time. Time to head into New Game Plus for one final fight. Or so I thought. Turns out, there's actually quite a bit different in New Game Plus. Hold on to your butts. We're in for a wild ride. The first thing I notice is that I still have all of my talents, including movement and hunt point skills, so that's a relief. The second thing I notice is that I no longer need to find the map nodes. Anywhere I go will just naturally be revealed as I walk along, and the game has given me a helpful reminder of where all the old bosses are. On the opposite side of the coin though, it appears that almost every enemy in the game now has different moves and abilities, making enemies that were once nothing more than a tripping hazard into something a bit more dangerous. But don't worry, I've got a new trick up my sleeve as well. After hunting down a few more hunt points that have respawned in the new game cycle, I put the extras I've been collecting into a new skill, the Garden Walker, which makes it so that every time I pull an enemy off balance, it not only hurts them, but also gives me some breath back, which means damage for them and healing for me. Anyway, we've got a new boss to kill. There's 1 or 2 bosses that are in the way, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Wait a minute. You didn't have this move before, or that one either. How many new moves did they give you? So, good news, bad news. The good news is that this run up to the new boss just got a lot more interesting. The bad news is that this is going to take a little longer than I was expecting. Credit where credit is due, the devs did a great job redesigning this boss so that it can give a fully built character a run for their money. These new moves require you to use every trick you've learned so far. Combine that with the extra health it now has, and you better know what you're doing. Sanguine Ichor? What the heck is Sanguine Ichor? Huh, okay. Apparently, any skills that you've maxed out can now be supercharged, giving them an even higher boost than you previously had. Interesting. You know, this warrants some thought. The devs clearly knew how to make the New Game Plus bosses harder in ways that weren't just, hurrah, it has 10x more health now, which makes me worried that whatever this new boss I'll be going up against might be the hardest boss I've ever faced in this game. And considering I have all of my movement abilities already and can sequence break the entire game, maybe it's worth my time to go around collecting all the old hunt points and bosses again. You know, just to be safe. I zip my way through the next few areas, forever thankful that the game didn't take away my movement skills, then begin making my way through all of the bosses a second time, which the game has so kindly marked on my map for me. Some of them haven't changed too much, like the Desert Watcher, who has become more of a damage sponge than anything else. Ah well, I guess they can't all have new Breath Heart. The heck is that? Can be used to upgrade weapons beyond their limit? Oh good, now my broken sword can do even more damage. More on that later though. For now, let's push forward to the next boss in the way, the Whispering Mothers. Apparently, all the rocks that I would normally throw back at them are now ungrabbable, and they sit in the air, acting as landmines. Great. Not only this, but every time you injure one of the mothers, they spawn even more of them, essentially taking away the movement skills that would normally make this fight trivial. Eventually, I was able to kill one of the mothers, which means we only have to deal with one Wait. What? You can do that? Well, you know how aggressive the second phase of the fight usually is? Imagine that, but now there's 2 of them. And aerial mines. Yeah, no, this is a good time. Thankfully, that additional aggression actually works in my favor, and the second phase goes quicker than usual. No complaints here. Now we just need to go to Shidra so we can... You're not Shidra. So apparently, the story beats of the game change a bit too when you're in New Game Plus. Hiad here even makes mention of it, saying we were expected to show up here, but not so early. Fascinating. In fact, this whole New Game cycle has me intrigued. New story beats, bosses getting moves and skills that change up the entire way you have to fight them. If you ever wanted your players to have interest in playing through your entire game again, this is definitely how you do it. Moving along, the Flower Heart boss has a new mechanic, where parrying it gives it a dangerous aura, so you're unable to parry it again for a few seconds. Thankfully, with my dodging damage, I can still keep up the pressure, despite basically having no weapon. And without too much trouble, the Flower Hearts go down. On to the Vulture. What's your new gimmick, friendo? Okay. Looks like both sides of the arena have some hostile terrain on their far ends, and the worms are present right from the get-go. I guess that makes things harder. Honestly, I was expecting... Oh. Okay, yeah, that might make things a bit more difficult. Well, getting to Phase 2 didn't take too long, but Phase 2 is where most of the worms are present, which means that while the enemies I'm facing aren't particularly hard, the arena itself is becoming a toxic wasteland, which makes it very hard to navigate, and in turn, very hard to keep tabs on both sides of the battle. This may be a problem. Add in the fact that the Vulture has attacks that can bully you into the toxic clouds, and you've got yourself a pretty bad time. I think I need some time to cook with this one. So instead, let's go after the other boss in the area, the Jaw Crab. He doesn't seem too different from the first game cycle. Basically a free kill and a free breath heart. Super useful for anyone else, completely useless for me. I'm still not quite ready for the Vulture, but an idea occurred to me. I keep dying because of my low health, and I don't really need stamina outside of the occasional dodging since I'm not swinging my sword. So, what if we respec? There we are, 30 health, 39 resonance. This can only go well. And you know what? Against all logic, it does. The extra health helps keep me in the fight while I learn every boss's new moves, and while the stamina is a bit lower than it probably should be, I've got enough mobility skills that I can make it work. It's not perfect, and we've lost some damage opportunities because of it, but the new build is enough to take down the new and improved Misbegotten Amalgam. And after a little bit of tweaking, I think we've got it. 20s in health and stamina, and 30 in resonance. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. On top of this, I've decided on the strategy that'll hopefully let me clear the Vulture. I already can't walk to the edges of the arena, so what difference does it make if those sections of the arena are also covered in toxic? It takes several tries, but in the end, this strategy does the trick, and I'm able to clear the last worm, ending the fight. Now I just need to slap the Vulture into oblivion and we'll be home free. What do you mean there's a third phase? What is this? What is this? There's so much going on. How am I supposed to do this? What's worse, I'm pretty sure none of these attacks are parryable, which means that the only way I'm going to get any damage in here is by reflecting the falling rocks, using dodge damage, and slapping the Vulture with my broken sword. Great! No, this is fine. See how much damage I'm doing? It's fine. Everything is fine. Oh god, please no, everything is fine! Well, guess we get to do the whole fight over again. My joy knows no bounds. Thankfully, getting to Phase 3 is a lot easier now that I have a strategy in place. And even though it's eating up a large chunk of my healing, I am starting to figure out additional ways to get in some damage without taking some in return. And despite almost dying in the final seconds of the fight, a few falling rocks helped me limp across the finish line. Whew. Alright, moving on. The Jaw Stag doesn't have much new to offer, as I'm pretty sure the only difference is that it fires more projectiles, a change that I absolutely take full advantage of. As for the Giant of Eyes, its first phase is pretty much the same, though its second phase has changed a bit. Not only does it occasionally summon unparryable flies that home in on your position, its attacks seem to open up a lot more rifts in the earth with every swing as well. Thankfully, that's about the only changes, so with only 2 attempts, the Giant of Eyes goes down. I'll be honest, I was worried that the Dream bosses would be the hardest of the new game cycle, but after beating both the Giant and Flower Heart in less than 3 tries, it looks like we're gonna be just fine. And just to prove it, I ran immediately over to the Surrogate Vulture. Phase 1 doesn't have much new, but Phase 2 adds a few shadow monster attacks in between the Vulture's animations, as well as an electric counterattack that happens every time you deal a large amount of damage. And while I admit that it did make things a little tricky, this fight was nothing in comparison to the new and improved Vulture we fought earlier. Thank God, can we be honest? I collect the bits and bobs that I need to unlock the rest of the bosses, then push forward into the Carven Palace to face off against the Artisan of Flesh. he doesn't have much new to add, aside from some aerial denial mines in between his attacks, so he goes down in the first try. At this point, I decided it was time I upgraded my broken sword to +9, which is the highest it can go. And while upgrading a weapon to its highest potential did unlock an achievement, it didn't unlock some hidden potential in the sword or anything like that. Sad day. But hey, at least every boss we fight from here on out will take a whopping 10 damage every time I swing my sword. Ooh. Sadly, Shapely Fidus doesn't have much new going for them outside of being a bit more aggressive and maybe 1 or 2 more explosions when they attack. Which means it's just a matter of time before I defeat the Wallmaster yet again in Phase 3. And we can move forward to... okay. Not gonna lie, was not expecting a 4-phase boss fight. Thankfully, it doesn't outstay its welcome. And after only about half a minute of dodging baby Wallmasters, the fight is finally over. The Grieving Rock Giant doesn't offer any real change in its combat, so I take him down with ease, get my feelings hurt by Jan again, agree to disagree about our motivations, then duke it out with his minions, who actually have a new trick where they regenerate and transform into goo hand enemies before reaching 0 health. Sorry, Jan, but you're gonna have to do better than that, buddy. Oh, look, a present. Great, I'm sad now. You know what'll cheer me up? Why don't we go explore Cenotaph City? It has such a beautiful design, and the people here are so friendly. That said, some of them are a bit too friendly, if you know what I mean. Sheesh, pal, take a hint. Desperation is not a good look on you. Yeah, no, I'm walking away. Besides, I've got a performance to get to. Let's see how different this is. Yup, very different. Everything hurts now. Okay, yeah, this one might take a few tries to get used to. Several things to note on this one. First off, always avoid the supercharge attack. Just trust me on that one. Second, don't be afraid to use your aerial superiority in this fight. A good number of his attacks can be avoided or even countered in midair. And third, I hope you like the ballerina section from the base game cycle because you've got double the trouble now. However, all of this increased aggression and pirouetting can absolutely be used against the dancer, and so long as you take your time and focus, the final performance doesn't take too long to complete. Which means it's time. Time to destroy this city, and soon, this world. I arrive at Shidra, maker and father of many. You know, it's funny. I really do. The struggle is all I know. All I am. All that makes sense. Now prove to me that I haven't wasted my time coming here, and give me the struggle I demand. The first phase doesn't have much new to discuss, aside from a laser that crosses the screen to keep you on your toes, and the second phase proves to be somewhat challenging due to the additional lasers and the fact that the minions that Shidra summons have an entirely new moveset, though it's not quite enough. None of this is enough. I came to you looking for a challenge. Broken weapon in hand, completely devoid of armor. I've given you every conceivable advantage, and yet, this is what you give me. This isn't a struggle. This is barely an annoyance. I have. And so have you. Well now, this is different. And you must be the one I have to thank for this sudden change of pace. Allow me to thank you properly. Okay. I'll play. it's over. The final struggle of Grime conquered at last, and the rewards of my effort flown down to me from on high. Goodbye, brother. Truly, we were kin. I equipped my prize, accepting these hard-won tokens, and emerged from the Surrogate stone one last time, my true colors born for all to see. It's time to fulfill my purpose. I was born to destroy, to erase, to restart. This world has run its course, from life to death to life again. Bodies within a body within a body. A body so purposefully created, and so easily destroyed by a dream and a spiral. This too shall end.